his purposes in life. Many are running to and fro, trying to figure out what are they here for. In the words of Dr. King, if man has not found anything to die, he's not fit to live. At some point in time, you got to find something to die for. Luke chapter 19, verses 41 through 44, you have 30 grade in the hearing. Let me just read it again. Now as he drew near, he saw the city and wept over it. You can read the other few verses in your spare time. Now as he drew near, he saw the city and wept over it. Just want to talk a little bit from the subject. It made him cry. It made him cry. Dr. Martin Luther King wrote in his book entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos and Community. King says, America is free to choose whether the Negro shall remain her liability or become her opportunity. End quote. Now I would like to add a parody to King's words by saying, the church is free to choose whether the Negro shall remain its liability or become her opportunity. The most valuable asset to any organization or any industry is man. God has done something with the fragility of matter. And within the construct of elements and evidence, God conceptualized a specimen, and the emergence of man came into being. The Bible says God breathed into the nostrils of man, and man became a living soul. It is within the accordingness to God that the plurality of God's own singularity, God thought of a consciousness to his personality and called that conscience man. From Genesis, or in its Greek definition, the book of birth, we find these words, let us make man in our own image according to our likeness. What is considered the imago Dei. Out of all the creatures God made, only man is the express visibility of God, not identical to God, but as the sculptured conscience of eternity made seen on the canvas of being. The psalmist poses that question of ultimate concern in the poesis rhythm of the Old Testament literature when he says, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visited him? And he answers the question in that fifth God weak. When the jailing discord between the saved and the sinner, when the threefold cord is broken, I believe it makes God weak, because even within the account, God tells us to love our enemies, that we may be the children of our Father in heaven, for He causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. In other words, the best thing to do is just do good to everybody. Don't let your good be spoken of as evil. Paul says to the body of Rome, don't let evil conquer you, but you conquer evil by doing good. That means location should not be the fundamental principle for locking folks out. Does not matter what country you come from, do good to somebody. No matter what nation or nationality, do good to somebody. No matter what religion, do good to somebody. Paul tells the church at Galatia in that 6th chapter about what it means to do good. He says, let us not grow weary in well-doing. For in due season we will reap a harvest if we faint not. That's that 9th verse. But in that 10th verse he says, therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all people. That means everybody. And he goes on to say, especially to them of the household of faith, or the family of faith. So the question is, Jesus, why are you weak? The April edition of Time magazine has on its cover page 3 contentious words that should cause all of us to weep. These 3 words are the evidence of a self-righteous and a self-inflicted romanticizing of Gnosticism that appeals to the petition of a grievous misapplication of factual acquaintance. And those words posted on the front of Time magazine simply says, this is true, David. It's true, David. I found this to be very interesting, that this title is placed on the front of a magazine called Time. Because when you define time, time can be defined as the succession or the continued progress of existence that record events from the past, present, into the future. And if time is the record keeper, time has to have several events that authenticate that truth is being or is in decline. In other words, it has to have some record of evidence or events, or some defined succession that shows the evidence of progress in decline. Jesus says in that 42nd verse, if you had known, especially in your days, the things that make for peace, but now they are hidden from you. Come to find out that what made Jesus weak was that we did not pay attention to the evidence of progress in decline. The 24th chapter of Matthew gives you a listing of how Philadelphia and Jerusalem is in decline. That 24th chapter of Matthew shows you why America is not so great. That 24th chapter of Matthew even exposes us to the decline of the church. Yes. If we are not careful, we will find ourselves in a strange condition, caught up and cast out from our Christ. He says that in modern day America, that means that the church has been vandalized against nation, kingdom against kingdom, family. There ain't no gospel being preached. Only thing people are hearing is the sugar-coated goodness that's tickling to the ears. And when you take on too much sweetness, you may find yourself with a cavity in your spirit. When you have too many cavities, the dentists have to extract those cavities because it causes the other teeth to become destroyed. Goes on to say that many will be offended because of his name, Christ. Then he turns back and says, many Christians will betray one another. False prophets will rise up, and because lawlessness will abound, the love for one another will grow cold. All of these are the recordings of the things of sin. But I've come to say this morning, grace, there is hope. Jesus says, he who endures to the end shall be saved. So it's all right to cry sometimes. It's all right to moan. It's all right to be troubled. Because the ending strength is God will take care of God's people. Words of James Weldon Johnson and his brother Rosamond just helped this morning. He says, out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. It ought to cause you to weep sometime when you see the evidence of progress in decline. Text says that Jesus looked over Jerusalem and he weeps over the city. Verse 43 says, for the days will come when enemies will build an embankment around you, surround you and close you on every side. In other words, the enemy is going to create what is called a collapsible condition. The embankment was a piling of the earth, or the dirt so high that you could not get out and you could not see out. Now I come to tell you this day that there's an embankment facing the people of God. That embankment has been built before us by principalities and rulers in high places, by the wickedness and the wrongness of mankind. God is weeping over America. Because God sees the destiny of our destruction. And it has brought God to tears. Let me show this. Let me show this. There are some people who are talking about building a wall on the outskirts of the country. But what about the walls that you have built on the inside? Of the country. The vast majority of folk who look like me still face the wall of institutionalizing prison. Vast majority of African American males are still the last hired in the first time. Majority persons who look like me, they make money off of those. And then we have the nerve. Be quiet. Environmental perpetuations that change the cosmic surroundings of those that look like us. It's a sad report when the average young male between the ages of 9 and 13 will have contact with a white police officer about 2.5 times, of which one of the times will be in illegal search and seizure. When I think about this to observe evil over the weekend was an exchange with Sean Spicer, April Ryan. Sean Spicer tells April Ryan, don't shake your head at me, which is significant of white supremacy. How dare you shake your head at me, who's in power? You are black, you're female, you're limited. God is weak. Then you got to be all right. Maxine Waters, he picked right here. You know, sometimes you can bark up the right tree. Said to Maxine Waters, I was not listening to what she said, but I was concerned about the James Brown wig that she had on her head. I am convinced that the black church is the only hope that America has. You may be afraid, and let me say that again. I'm convinced that the black church is the only hope that America has because it's the black church that is the pulse of America. So when they tell you what you think, it got me back up for me. There are some folk who are black, don't know. So let me move on. This thing is unrecognizable. You got the pigmentation, but you don't have the power. You look like us, but you don't have it. And your children within you to the ground. And they will not leave you one stone upon another, because you did not know the time, your visitation. Here is why Jesus is weeping over Jerusalem, America, Philadelphia, Mississippi, Washington, D.C., Oregon. Here's why Jesus is weeping, simply because they rejected him. That's why you got to be careful about your tradition. Because sometimes your traditions can cut Christ out. Sometimes the things that you do may not have any emphasis on Christ. The thing that I want you to know, God doesn't show up to you like he does every day. God may show up in different ways. Be careful, you may be entertaining angels around. The same Jesus who weeps over Jerusalem, the same Jesus who executes vengeance over Jerusalem. The Lord Christ does not delight in the death of a sinner. But all of us will have to give an account of the sins we have committed in this body after death. Many have answered, why did Jesus weep over the city of Jerusalem? The tragedian of Athens by the name of Euripides, he says that the Roman satirists unconsciously bear witness to the profound truthfulness and beauty of the picture of a weeping saint. With these words, he says, nature confesses that she gives the tenderest of hearts to the human race by giving them tears. Because everybody that's crying ain't crying out of sadness. But I wonder if Jesus would allow us to turn his sadness to gladness. Did Christ go to